Phil Mackey, Tom Pelissero here at TCF Bank Stadium, of all places. Probably the last place we thought we would be.
But
for the
where
Vikings.
else in this season, where else would we be at TCF Bank Stadium?
Exactly. The Vikings' final home game of the year. They lose 40-14, a blowout. I don't really know where to begin other than to say that it's only fitting that the Vikings would end a random season at a random location and get their butts completely spanked.
And the thing had been hyped up as it was going to be a novelty act. It was going to be this unique event. And that's basically what it was. I mean, if you think about the things that fans kind of rallied around in the first quarter, yeah, the Vikings open up okay. They go right down the field. Brett Favre throws a touchdown to Percy Harvin. It looks like maybe they're going to have a little bit of momentum going. But other than that, it was a sideshow. It was Goldie Gopher going around leading the rouser. It's a guy running, not even running, walking onto the field, going over and tapping Brandon Manamaliuna on the shoulder and saying something before he gets tackled and his pants fall down. I mean, these are sort of the endearing memories. And then by the end, the Stadium Bowl's clearing out. There's fans throwing snowballs at the players and the cheerleaders. It's just, you go back to the beginning of the season and the expectations that people had. You never could have thought that it could unravel to this extent. But walking in that locker room today, for 5-9, it was a pretty comfortable environment in there. There was not a lot of, people, they've gotten past it. They've gotten past the disappointment and the anger and everything else. At this point, it's just they are resigned to where they are, and it's just hard to imagine these next couple of weeks the effort's going to be any better.
And a lot was made of the field conditions coming into this game, and you know that if from the Vikings standpoint anyways, out of the playoffs, so the only thing you can talk about are field conditions, and then the Brett Favre storyline popped up where Favre was unable to throw 2 days ago, listed as out on the injury report. The Vikings had to talk to the league to get an exemption for Favre to be able to play. Winds up getting knocked out. Joe Webb looked extremely, we'll say, below average and very ordinary, even as a mobile quarterback. Nothing to take positively out of this game, even.
Yeah, the Bears finally were able to go to their game plan. Let's not forget, until this morning, the Bears thought they were facing Joe Webb. You saw what they did out there. The moment Webb came into the game, it was a lot more pressure packages. They showed different looks. They kept coming at him. And what you saw Joe Webb doing was he stopped going through his progression. He started locking on one receiver, following him across the field, trying to force the ball into coverage. It led to a couple of interceptions. It led to a lot of stalled drives. It's not entirely surprising. And honestly, Joe Webb was in a rougher position trying to come in during the game than he would have at the beginning of the game. Because at the beginning of the game, you're talking about the scripted plays. You're talking about us being able to establish a rhythm. You're thrown in all of a sudden in the second quarter when the Bears already have their blood flowing a little bit on the cold field and they can just bear downhill on a rookie quarterback. It was a tough day for Joe Webb.
So why should we care about the final 2 weeks of the regular season?
Well, I think that it's going to be, I've always really hesitated to believe that it was a referendum on Leslie Frazier, how they played down the stretch. Because what I always said was, it's a bad team. Good teams don't lose games the way the Vikings did all season. And changing one guy was not going to change that. Everything that the Vikings showed in the first couple of weeks against Washington and Buffalo, two bad teams, ends up being totally erased now in games against the Giants. And then this game today against Chicago. Now they're going to go play a Philadelphia team that's got a lot to play for. In the end, I'm not saying the guys are going out there dogging it or they're not trying. You just lack that edge. You lack that extra boost that you need when you're the team that on a bad day, on a rock-hard field, you don't have anything to play for. You have nothing that you have set out there as a goal. The Bears came out today and just looked like they played kind of ticked off about how everything had gone, and they wanted to lay it to the Vikings a little bit.
Are you convinced more so or less or no change about the Bears' chances heading into the playoffs based on tonight's game?
The one thing the Bears have is Devin Hester. They have a guy who can change the game. And you look at how this game went today. It wasn't a blowout at halftime. 17-7, yeah, the Vikings have been pretty lackluster since Favre went out and since he was concussed. But you're still in a game. It's a 10-point game. Well, what happens? Devin Hester takes back the opening return of the second half, 70-plus yards, sets up a field goal. Vikings go 3-and-out. They punt. Devin Hester takes for a touchdown. Boom, 20-point game. That was less than 3 minutes into the second half. He can change the game. The defense is very good. Clearly, the addition of Julius Peppers has upgraded them. Brian Urlacher is playing a lot more active than he has in the past. That front seven's covering up some of their issues in the secondary. Offensively, they're not that impressive. Look at the final numbers, Phil. The Bears 17-16 in first downs, 293 to 273 in total net yards. It's not as though they were just running up. They were 2 of 10 on third downs. It's not like the Bears offense was just throwing the ball all over them. Correct. And they haven't all year. They have the 30th ranked offense coming into this game in the NFL. But again, the defense is solid, and when you have a game changer on special teams, that can be a big difference. And he's an X factor going into the postseason.
So now the only question left is to figure out how the Vikings.
Well, there's a lot of questions left.
Well, mainly though, how can the Vikings stay in the headlines the next 2 weeks as an irrelevant team? They've done it the last few weeks, whether it's something Favre related or the Metrodome roof collapsing. There's got to be something. Maybe it's Favre Sturger finally.
I think that it has to be. Eventually, that's going to come out. You're still going to have Favre now coming back from a concussion. The Vikings have kept guys out after
He might still play this season. He might still play against Detroit in a couple weeks.
I don't see him playing against Philadelphia for a number of reasons. The concussion protocol, Vikings have followed it pretty strictly. They've not allowed guys who suffer concussion to come back and play again 7 days later. All the stuff that they say about Brett Favre's the greatest warrior ever, I think Leslie Frazier said that about 20 times in his post-game press conference. That's fine. But when you're talking about a guy's brain, when he just took a shot like that and his head hit the turf, you need to be careful. And on some level, you need to protect Brett Favre from himself. It would help if Brian McKinney helped in that and didn't let Corey Wooten get off and absolutely drill him into the turf. But you have to step in. And would it have made a difference in the game today had they not allowed Brett Favre to play? Probably not. That's a much better Bears team, and it's a Bears team that had a lot to play for and came out looking as though they were motivated. But I wonder if Leslie Frazier sent the right message in terms of moving forward with this team, and a team that has to be on some level casting its gaze to 2011 by allowing Brett Favre to sort of rip up everything that they had built toward this week. He said that the energy was great. You could see guys rallying around Brett Favre. I got to think that within that locker room, there were some guys who just wanted to see what they would go through with Joe Webb running that game plan. I'm not privy to exactly what happened during the team drills and practice in the week, but I got to imagine that when you put together a game plan for one quarterback who has a completely different skill set, you practice that all week, and then suddenly Favre, once again, just like he did at times with Childress, kind of plays by his own rules and shows up and gets to play on game day after being ruled out on Saturday. Is that the right message for Frazier to send? I don't know.
About a minute ago, you used the phrase casting a gaze. Is that out of the Brad Childress? You can't.
I think
you get the Brad Childressisms out, or
I really can't. Seriously, he's provided plenty of them. You need to focus on the highway that's just in front of you. You can't look too far. You can't look into all that stuff.
Things that he does at the podium. Well, we're going to cast
our
gaze.
We do miss the quotes from Brad Childress.
He is a lot funnier than people give him credit for. We're going to cast our gaze elsewhere and get out of this stadium because it's not really a place we want to be hanging out much longer. So,
you want to go to Seven Herbs?
Is it even open now?
No, probably not.
Let's go to Sally's.
Is it ladies' night? No.
It's always ladies' night.
Okay.
Fun. But these suit coats, are you kidding me? All right, I'm Phil. He's Tom. We'll see you.